Let's kick off this explainer. You're sitting in your car, just fuming at a massive sea of red taillights. You're probably thinking, man, there are just way too many cars on the road. We all assume that more cars literally equals a slower city, right? Well, prepare to have your mind completely blown. Because a totally groundbreaking new study on urban mobility just absolutely destroyed everything we thought we knew about rush hour.
Okay, let's look at Kolkata. It's this sprawling, incredible megacity. Over 14 million people live there, and top consulting firms will confidently tell you that it is literally choking on its own traffic. It holds the title for the officially slowest major city in India. So, obvious question, right? Does it have the absolute worst traffic jams? I mean, you'd bet your life on it, but you'd lose. Here is the brutal, mind-bending truth. Yes, Kolkata is the slowest major city. But guess what? It actually has the least congestion among India's megacities. I know, it sounds completely impossible. How on earth can the slowest city have the least traffic? Well, the answer actually isn't the cars at all. It's the asphalt. The physical infrastructure itself is fundamentally broken. The actual roads dictate a total snail's pace, even if you are literally the only car driving. Now, you might be wondering, is this just some wild guess? Not even close. The data here is hardcore. 22 million individual trips. Researchers tapped into Google Maps to track digital movement across 154 different cities. That's absolutely massive. This isn't some tiny, flawed survey. This is undeniable big data proof of how vehicles actually move in the real world.
And honestly, the way they figured this out, it's brilliant. It's so simple. First, they extracted standard routes. Then, they tracked the speed of those routes at exactly midnight. Dead of night, zero traffic. Then, they tracked those exact same routes during peak rush hour. By just subtracting that midnight speed from the rush hour speed, they totally isolated the truth. They finally separated the traffic jam from the actual road quality.
And doing this creates a truly humiliating contrast. Let's take central Chicago. It's one of the most notoriously congested, gridlocked areas in America. Now compare that to Chandigarh, which is actually one of India's best planned cities. Get this. Central Chicago, during its absolute worst, most agonizing rush hour, is still faster than Chandigarh at midnight with completely empty streets. No way, right? A totally gridlocked US city beats an empty Indian city. Why? Because multipurpose roads, pedestrians, uneven pavement, and narrow lanes, they literally kill your speed before the cars even show up. So what is the real reason some cities are just agonizingly slower than others? The breakdown is absolutely staggering. A massive 88% of a city's slowness comes down to terrible base roads. Just what happens when there is no traffic at all? Actual traffic jams, they only drive about a third of the overall problem. And yeah, those numbers overlap a bit because bad roads actually cause worse traffic. But the point is, for decades, we have been blaming the wrong villain. Traffic isn't the main problem. The road itself is. Academics call this uncongested mobility. But let's completely drop the jargon for a second. What does that actually mean for us? It's the agonizingly slow speed of a city at 3 a.m. Absolutely no one is on the road, but you still can't drive fast. Your foot is literally on the gas, the street is totally empty, but you are crawling. That right there, that is the true speed limit of a city. And this builds to an incredibly mind-bending paradox. We always hear this doomsday narrative, right? As developing cities get richer, people buy way more cars, and more cars just mean permanent gridlock. So does economic growth absolutely guarantee a slower city? The data completely flips the script on this one. It's a total face slapper. Cities with higher incomes and more cars actually achieve faster overall speeds. I'm serious. Wealthier cities with tons of vehicles absolutely beat poor cities with fewer vehicles. Now, yes, their rush hour traffic is technically worse, but their baseline speed, that 3 a.m. empty road speed we just talked about, is just so much higher that they easily win the race overall. And the explanation for this is actually pretty simple. Wealth forces better infrastructure. Economic growth literally builds faster primary roads. When a city gets richer, it pours concrete, it builds highways, and this massive physical upgrade easily outpaces the drag of all those brand new cars. Progress doesn't paralyze a city. It literally paves the way out of the mud. Concrete beats congestion every single time. You know, this entire study is just a massive triumph of big data. First off, it gives us the very first massive scale view of mobility across the developing world. Second, it completely bypasses those terribly flawed human surveys. Because let's face it, People exaggerate. But GPS data doesn't lie. And finally, it absolutely isolates the sickness from the symptom. It separates the actual physical road from the traffic.
But hey, every study has blind spots, right? And we've got to talk about them. This study heavily relies on smartphones, so right out of the gate, it entirely excludes populations who just don't have them. Plus, it totally ignored extreme monsoon rains, which, if you've ever been in one, instantly paralyze entire cities. And it missed massive informal bus networks, too. So remember, we're looking at this data strictly through the windshield of a private car, definitely not the window of a crowded local bus.
Still, the policy implications here are just massive. The message to politicians is loud and clear. Stop obsessing over congestion pricing and car bans. Seriously. When a city slows down, the immediate political reflex is to tax the drivers. But look at the data. If your baseline roads are fundamentally terrible, taxing drivers isn't going to magically make them get home any faster. It just makes them poorer while they sit parked on the exact same broken roads.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, truly provocative takeaway from the researchers to wrap up this explainer. Upgrading the physical quality of the actual roads creates significantly more mobility than trying to perfectly price out the traffic. In plain everyday English, fixing broken infrastructure actually solves more problems than trying to control human behavior with a bunch of tolls. So ask yourself, are your city's roads fundamentally broken, or are they just temporarily busy? Really think about that the absolute next time you are stuck in terrible traffic.